And we are live. Welcome back to The Future of. I'm your host, Jonathon Narvey, and today I have an exciting topic, the future of performing arts. I'm talking today with a very special guest, Laura-Ann Chong. Welcome to The Future of.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for having me.
And what makes Laura-Ann Chong so special and the person to talk to about the future of performing arts? Well, let me tell you, and she's going to tell you herself in a moment about her experience, but this is amazing. This is the first ever that I'm interviewing a real live Cirque du Soleil performer. So, wow. They don't make a lot of you. So Cirque du Soleil, I've been to Cirque du Soleil in Vegas and here in Vancouver, and it's an amazing, crazy show. And I want to get into your background and how you got into performing arts. And I want to kick off maybe with the thing that I noticed is Cirque du Soleil was almost your backup plan. This is kind of like being a stand-up comic, and you get a chance to do a cable special and that falls through, but that's okay. Your fallback plan is a Netflix series. So anyways, talk about going from your plan of the Olympics to Cirque du Soleil. How did you tell me how you got started in this business?
Well, I've been a gymnast ever since I was about 2 years old. And so for me growing up, it was just, I love to flip. I love to fly. I love to use my body in ways that not a lot of people can say that they can. And I started competing probably when I was about 6 years old. And very quickly, I had constant feedback that, you have some skill. Maybe you should consider high performance, elite gymnastics, and get on track for Olympics. So that got put in my head pretty early on and just kind of went with it. I loved it. So I made national team by the time I was 12 years old, and my first nationals, I was a national champion. So that was pretty cool and good for the ego and motivation to continue on. So then I was trying for the 2004 Olympics in Athens. In gymnastics, you have to be 16 in order to compete at the Olympics. So that was my special year. I was turning 16 in 2004. It was the year that the Olympics were going back to the original place where they all started. So it was a big one, and I ended up becoming an alternate for the team. And then after that, I knew I wanted to focus on getting a scholarship to be able to compete in the NCAA in the States, which I did. And that gave me amazing opportunities to get my education as well as continue competing at a little bit more of an older age for a gymnast back then. Nowadays, we're seeing a lot older girls competing at the elite level, but when I was elite, it was pretty much 16 to 18 was your prime. And then I was studying exercise and sports science and had a minor in psychology, and I was very focused on trying to get into physiotherapy. And lo and behold, I didn't get into grad school the first year. And so then I was like, well, now what? Let's try for 2012 Olympics, because it was 2011 at the time. And I quickly realized that I did not quite have that competitive mentality that I needed to push through to get to the Olympic trials process and all that. So that's when I turned to Cirque.
Wow. Well, that was a lot to take in. I have to say, I want to push back on something you said a moment ago, that you didn't have the competitive spirit. And now I took a look at your you've got some videos up on YouTube of showing how you train. I got exhausted just looking at you. Like, what the things you can do are superhuman. Well, I mean, it's extraordinary. So
Thank you.
I saw you do. How would you describe your routine, your
Well,
training routine?
yeah, it's definitely quite a lot different than what I am doing in Cirque du Soleil now. And I think that's why I'm able to do that I'm able to be in Cirque, at an older age. But when I was training elite and training for the Olympics, I was training 6 days a week and anywhere up to 32 to 36 hours a week. So remember, again, this is a 16-year-old, 15, 16-year-old doing this. So it does, on top of school and everything, it does take a lot of time commitment, a lot of dedication, a lot of mental toughness. And I knew that already. So I was prepared. I was like very, tunnel vision on going to the Olympics. So I was willing to do that. Once I got into college, it was a lot different of training. The NCAA only allows student athletes to train 20 hours a week. So we had 2 days off, and instead of being in the gym 6-7 hours a day training, you're only there for 4, and maybe half an hour of it or an hour of it is strength and conditioning and stretching and stuff. So it's quite a different mentality. You start to learn a lot more of a work-life balance as you start transitioning into your studies more to prepare you for whatever career is coming up next. So yeah, when I jumped from that into elite again, it was a little mind blowing.
Can you describe sort of briefly that routine? You may not know the video I'm thinking of. Well, it's the one that comes up first, which is it shows you the routine in the gym, because this is not push-ups and sit-ups, like the movements. I literally don't know how to describe the stuff you're doing.
Well, a lot of it, so there's 4 routines or 4 apparatuses that female gymnasts do. One's the vault, where you're literally sprinting as fast as you can for 20 meters and launching yourself over this vaulting table, and you do multiple flips and twists in the air. That actually was the event that I won when I first went to nationals, my very first year. It quickly became not my best event after that. The next apparatus is called the uneven bars, and I think this is what you're alluding to. It's basically 2 bars that one's a little bit higher than the other, and the gymnast is having to swing herself from bar to bar and doing flips and twists as well. A lot of people will consider you being more of like a monkey on those ones, right? The third apparatus is a balance beam, and that's when you're about 1.5 meters off the ground, standing and balancing and flipping on a 4-inch wide balance beam. So that event itself is always kind of known as the make or break event of a competition, because it's all about mental preparedness. And then the final event is the floor exercise, where it's a lot more of a performance. You get to do it to music. The athlete usually chooses their music, and there's different dance styles that you incorporate along with tumbling. So yeah.
So there's a lot to it, and you took these crazy skills that could be useful in all kinds of situations, but mostly actually acrobatics, or if you're like a double agent, like a Scarlett Johansson type of character in the Avengers. And you took these skills and you went, as they say, you went off and joined the circus. You ran away to join the circus. Not just any circus, not the kind of circus that I saw when I was a kid, with the elephants and the lion tamers. Cirque du Soleil, for all 10 people on Earth who maybe haven't heard of Cirque du Soleil and may not know what is Cirque du Soleil? How would you describe it?
Well, the literal translation, excuse my French is not the greatest, but it is Circus of the Sun. So basically it started off as this tiny little street performer group, 20 of them on the streets of Montreal. And they grew it into the #1 entertainment industry, circus, really. But they basically blended circus with a production. So it appealed to more of an audience. It wasn't just about having, the strongest man in the world and, the largest elephants or whatnot. It wasn't about the animals. And actually, Cirque du Soleil never works with animals. So when you go to a show and you see something that is animalistic, it's a puppet or a projection, or an artist pretending to be that. So that's one thing that's really nice about Cirque du Soleil. And also, they've been around for almost 30 years now. And every year they keep putting out new shows. Some, again, as you said, were in Las Vegas. Those are resident shows where the theaters are actually built for the specific show. So it's a very large production. And then there's two types of touring shows. One is in a big top or a tent. So that's kind of more traditional circus feel. And another is an arena tour where you're going to a different city every week. So yeah, there's a lot of different variations. And if you haven't heard of Cirque du Soleil, I definitely would suggest trying to look it up and go to a show once we're back.
Yeah, it is a visual feast for the eyes. Just like it's not just the stunts, the acrobatics, which are incredible, but it's the visual, the artistry, how
Yes.
everything is tied together, the colors, the styles, the fashion. It's just it's over the top.
Yes, I think that's something that puts Cirque du Soleil in its own category when you are comparing it to other circus companies, because there are plenty of other circus companies, whether here in North America, people are aware of them or not. But circus, you don't need to have the crazy costumes or makeup. It is more stripped down. But Cirque du Soleil, as I mentioned before, they wanted to be an entertainment company, so they are bringing in those extra pieces for their productions.
Right. Well, every time I've gone, and I think I may actually have gone 3 times, and they're all kind of, it all blends together into this crazy dream sequence in my head, and it's always an amazing time.
Thank you.
So here's the thing. We're living in a different world from when you were performing live. And by the way, you weren't just there for one tour. You were there for how many years were you working there?
I was touring for 7 years. So we were on, I was on the same show, but because I was there for so long, I was there for the North American tour, the European tour, the South American tour, and then we even returned back to North America.
Yeah, and again, just a world-class show. So you operating at that level for that length of time, so crazy. So, and it also must have given you insights into the business, how this thing is run, and of course, any kind of performing art, whether we're talking Cirque du Soleil or your neighbors play down the street, they're all suffering from the same problem. We can't get together anymore, and we don't
Right.
know how much longer this is going to go on. So what is going on? How do we what is happening? Are performing companies like Cirque du Soleil, are they finished? Are they coming back? What is the plan, if any?
I think the general consensus so far is yes, of course, we're coming back. Every company will say that they are coming back. They want to come back. Their artists want to come back. Their technicians need to come back. This is everyone's livelihood. Maybe I slipped into the whole industry by coincidence or mistake after not getting to grad school, but at the same time, it's now part of who I am, what I want to do. And that's the same passion that everyone on these shows share. So yes, we are all coming back. Right now, of course, I've noticed a lot of people in our industry, because it is one of those industries that isn't like we can half do it. It's either you have shows or you don't have shows, right? We are trying to pivot and find out ways how to have more virtual shows or live streams of shows. But at the same time, it's just not the same watching something on a screen than in person. It's the same reason why someone might rent a movie versus going to the actual movie theater. It's different. Even though you're watching it on a screen, it's a much bigger screen. And so imagine that watching, a live stream of a show versus being in the big top and feeling that atmosphere all around you 360 degrees and having all of your senses simulated by that. So that's something that you can't replace. whether no matter how good technology is. I know virtual reality is trying to really build that gap. But yeah, for the most part, we're all still keeping our fingers crossed and really hoping that people are abiding by whatever restrictions need to happen so that we can get this thing under control and just yeah, get back to performing for everyone, because that's what we really love to do.
If you had to take a wild guess, and it would have to be a wild guess, or you think maybe 2022, 2023?
That is definitely the large question that everyone keeps, like, literally you wake up in the morning every day and you're like, okay, is it this year or is it next year? And last year, probably around the summertime, we all kind of thought, okay, maybe by the end of 2020 or even early 2021. Now we know that's very, very unrealistic, obviously. And so we are starting to like look at 2022 as being uh, the closer to reality. Still, who knows what's going to happen? I know there are some companies or shows that are trying to get out by the end of this year or even fall. It's really just going to depend on where they're located, the demographics of it all. Every country, every state, every province even has different restrictions. And so it's the inconsistencies that's causing a lot of gray area right now. And if you are with a larger company such as Cirque du Soleil, they do need to look at the liabilities of it all and the logistics of being able to fly their artists and technicians and staff, depending on maybe the nationality that they have in their passport, because we know countries are restricting some visa entries for just because of the country printed on your passport. So yeah, there's a whole lot of things to consider. So we shall see. I will definitely still keep my fingers crossed, and I hope everyone does too.
That's great. That's great. And it really is a thing where the government regulations or whoever's regulations, it's got to be rock solid. Like it can't be like we saw the regulations affecting a lot of small businesses, restaurants, and governments were like, hey, just make your restaurant COVID ready. Wipe down the tables. Here's the regime. Here's the kind of cleaning stuff you need to use. Here's you need to attract customers, and here's all the things you need to do. And businesses were like, well, okay, I guess if it's that or closing, okay. And then we did that for something like 2 weeks, and then government's like, yeah, you're closed. But with a production the size of Cirque du Soleil or Broadway or any other major production, I mean, that is a huge liability. You can't do that to people.
No, you really can't play with that. It's not even about one company and something happening with their shows within their company. It's like you're going to ruin it for the entire industry if it messes up, like even if we consider cruise ships and the entertainment on cruise ships, because whoever's going to be the first one to be able to do it successfully, then all the other companies are going to follow that suit, right? And try to, okay, what kind of regulations did they do? Was it even feasible? Like a lot of the times, sure, we might be able to start a show because the staff and the artists are there. However, right now, like we're not allowed to have theaters or big tops or whatever at capacity. And a lot of time that comes down to the revenue. Well, we're not going to make any money if we can't sell more than 60% of our seats, And so there's so much that goes into it, and everyone's trying to figure out those what ifs right now so that once we do get the green light, it's smooth sailing and it's not a start and stop type thing.
Have you kept in touch with a lot of performers from Cirque, your old colleagues?
Yes, definitely. I actually, during the summer last year, I started this initiative on Facebook called Project Lumiere. And it was basically because I noticed a lot of colleagues and artists who we all left tour and we left our shows and our industries, and we had to go home, but a lot of people didn't have homes anymore if they were living on tour for so long. They didn't know who to turn to. it wasn't like we could just join another entertainment company and still be around those people. So it was very isolating. And a lot of people were starting to get in some pretty dark places. So some colleagues and I decided to start this Project Lumiere initiative just to try and create a community and stay connected and help with different resources, whether it was resume building or mental health or anything like that. So yeah, that's definitely been a big project of mine over the last few months.
Can you talk a little bit more about the mental health aspect of this? Not so much from the perspective of, everyone feels down. Yeah, we know this. Everyone's down. It's more like the deeper motivation to keep training when there could be a year and a half, 2 years between now and the next live performance. And it's like you're operating really at an Olympic level, to keep doing that kind of training, as opposed to, we're locked down. Maybe I'm just going to sit on the couch today. How bad could that
Yeah.
be? One afternoon, and that turns into all week. And then it's like, oh, you know what? I'm done. So
Definitely.
yeah.
At the beginning of the pandemic, of course, everyone thought it was only going to be 3 weeks, maybe a month max. So a lot of us did have that, oh, okay, I'm just going to relax and rest my body, because when we're on tour, we're doing shows six days a week, often 2 times a day, plus trainings and rehearsals. So the rest that your body gets is not very abundant. So a lot of people were just like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy this like couch potato-ness. Um, and then it started turning into 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and now we're almost at a year. So yeah, the motivation is definitely something that we've tried to address. We even had several discussion panels through this Project Lumiere project that I'm on, where we brought in sports psychologists and they talked about the theory of motivation, just because if you can understand like a little bit of the science that goes behind it, like, okay, why am I feeling, that I just want to sit down and not even think about going for a walk, a 20-minute walk that I'm allowed to leave the house or something like that. So just trying to address little achievements, because some people, yeah, as I mentioned, they did get in very dark places. Of course, like the pandemic hit a lot of industries, but we are seeing many more being able to come back a little bit, even, like as you said, the restaurants, at least here in BC, they're starting to be able to have dine in at least, or even take out. And of course, it's not at capacity, but they can still cook and, do the things that they want to do, or teachers are there. And of course, like everyone's got their perils. Not going to compare anyone, but at the same time, it's like the entertainment industry is dead. It's completely dead right now, or at least the live performance part of it, right? And that's what really kind of gives life to a lot of people. So yeah, some people were definitely getting, or still are struggling. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is when we are on tour, and we came back, a lot of people didn't qualify for like employment benefit or unemployment benefits or anything like that. So there's a lot of artists out there who are still struggling to just put food on the table, or who are couch surfing, or yeah, really just don't know where to go next. So it's been challenging, but you just got to keep reminding people that you're there to help them and stay together.
So, do you foresee a lot of these top performers, or maybe some of these top performers, taking a more entrepreneurial route, like, say working with a VR company, or putting out lessons or coaching, or something, or, personal training, sign up for my course and, get
For
trained by a
sure.
Cirque du Soleil superstar.
I definitely have to say, I think half of my Instagram feed that were friends or colleagues have now started either their own streaming business, whether it was online workouts, or yeah, they moved their creation from on stage into a product. So it's been quite interesting to see people pivot, but it's been really awesome to see that as well, because these are the people that are realizing, okay, I'm not just good at flipping or like putting on makeup and being a different character. It's almost like yeah, you're a different character, as in, like, for me, even example, I am starting a career in public relations. And so that's a different character for me, but it's something that I still really want to do. And I love being able to continue my creativeness through PR because yeah, you got to you got to get creative when you're pitching or trying to represent clients and they want certain things. So it's been fun, but definitely you're seeing a lot of people step up, but we can't forget about the ones who are still struggling to get off the couch sometimes.
Mm. So just to follow up on one piece of that, just your own story of where you're at right now. You're working in PR, and if I recall correctly, that's a natural extension of some of the stuff you were doing with Cirque. Because if I recall correctly, you were actually helping the marketing team to promote Cirque. I mean, it's one of those things that kind of promotes itself, but that job needs to be done.
Yeah.
So you had that experience, and you're sort of building on that.
Yes, definitely. For the last 3 years I was on tour, I got really into working with our publicists who were on tour with us. I just really enjoyed the special events that they would be putting on, being able to host the media, being able to have interviews, and um, who knows what else we did, And I also got really involved with some of the humanitarian work that we would do on tour, like visiting children hospitals or underprivileged populations and soup kitchens and stuff like that. So I've always been someone who needs to connect with the community or loves to like share those stories or whatnot. And yeah, I mean, Cirque du Soleil, as you said, it's its own product that's very easy to promote. Everyone wants to see it, so that side was very nice, where it's just like, okay, you can name drop Cirque, and then everyone's gonna say yes, or at least want to come to the premiere or whatnot. The product lunch would be our premiere. But so now that I'm working in public relations, it's finding out, okay, like this brand is unknown. How do I pivot my thinking? Maybe use some of the same tactics, but yeah, just kind of make it more relatable to a little lesser known brands and stuff. So during the pandemic, I took a course at Simon Fraser University, the PR certificate program, and that really helped me prepare and think a little bit more outside the box than just the Cirque bubble.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a fun pivot, and for those who've been watching the show, you guys know I do PR as well. So glad to have you on in the society and the family. What do we say? I don't know why I'm stuck on this, but anyways, this has been interesting to get your insight into how things are changing and how individual performers are sort of adapting to the present circumstances, and then. Yeah, any other further thoughts or final thoughts about the future of performing arts?
I think just stay positive. I mean, I know everyone, like, the hardest part for a performer, I think, especially the last year, is that we always love to be on stage, especially like I'll even speak for me. Like I one of the things that like I really took from being on stage was being able to allow the audience to escape for those 2 hours. So no matter what was going on in their personal lives, as soon as my show was Amaluna and we were in a big top, so as soon as you stepped into the big top, you were transformed and transported into this whole nother world. And I so badly miss being able to do that, and allow people to just kind of forget about everything and just like be completely immersed in this whole other experience.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, like with this past year, it's been one of those years where everyone needs that escape the most. And we as performers have not been able to provide that for our communities. And so I think like even for me, I think that's one of the most gut-wrenching parts of this, is that I'm not there to help people have that feeling of escapism. So definitely know like everyone's going to be trying so hard to get back as soon as we can. And yeah, just keep washing your hands, and let's hope that this gets under control and we figure out other solutions to make it all safe to do so.
Right. Well, it's been a real pleasure talking with you, Laura-Ann Chong. And for those who maybe might not know where to find you, well, number one, I should mention, if you don't know where to find her, one place you could look is in the news. That's in fact how we knew each other from PR circles, actually, but then I saw you were popping up all over the news, and there's a Vancouver Sun article about running away to join the circus isn't what it used to be, and I'm like, oh, I know that person. So, so that's sort of what led to this. But yeah, you've gotten some major coverage. Like I mean, clearly you're in the right industry. You know how to those lines.
Thank you. You know, it was pretty funny because the person who wrote that article in the Vancouver Sun was Stuart Dearden, and he was one of our guest speakers in this SFU PR program. So I connected with him through one of our courses, and then yeah, he asked if I wanted to do a story, and then it just kind of got syndicated and got picked up by the province and CBC, and yeah, and that is pretty cool because I haven't been home in Vancouver for a long time, and I was starting to feel a little left out of the community, but now I'm starting to grasp my way back in, let's say, and yeah, so it's been very exciting.
Fantastic, fantastic. So outside of the news, where else might people find you? Let's say on Instagram or elsewhere.
Yeah, so all my socials are the same handle. So Instagram, Twitter, are LA Chong 88, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. But to be honest, yeah, those three would probably be the most beneficial to connect with me. And I love making new connections, having conversations. So please reach out. And thank you so much, Jonathan, for having me.
Well, thank you very much for coming on The Future Of. And we've been talking about the future of performing arts. I'm your host, Jonathon Narvey. And if you like what you have been listening to, please click that like button. Please click the subscribe button. Send me money. Or if you're looking for PR services, you could hire me for that. So there's that. Thank you very much for coming to The Future Of, and I will see you in the future.